Are you looking for the best tactile mechanical switches? In this video we will look at some of the best tactile mechanical switches. Before we get started with our video, we have included links in the description. So make sure you check those out to see which one is in your budget range. Number 1. Gateron Zealio V2 67G. If you're ready to splurge on a high-end tactile option, we recommend Gateron Zealio V2 67G switches. While the comparatively less expensive Zealio 62G switches above are still our recommendation is the best pick for most people, Zealio V2s offer a different experience with a much snappier and unmistakable tactile bump. These switches also have a longer, more noticeable pre-travel, which is great if you appreciate the feeling of depressing a key a bit deeper into the keystroke before ramping up into the tactile point. Like the Zealio 4TS above, these switches are available in different switch weights, including 62G, 65G, 67G, and 78G variants. Lower spring weights tend to feel lighter and preserve as much tactility as possible, while heavier weight options add more resistance and cushion to the end of travel. Ultimately, these are among the most tactile feeling switches and are ideal if you're put off by the mushy quality that even most good quality tactile switches exhibit. However, this unmatched tactility also comes at a pretty extreme price point, as these typically cost around $1 per switch. Additionally, while they're quite smooth and reasonably stable right out of the box, to make these switches feel like the premium price switches they are, they benefit a great deal if you take the time to film and lube them before rolling them out in your build. Number 2. Durock Sunflower / POM T1. At a mid-range price point, we recommend Durock Sunflower / POM T1 switches. These switches mix up some of the standout aspects of our top two picks with a relatively immediate pre-travel leading into the bump and a sharp, satisfying tactile action that isn't too heavy feeling. They also have a widely liked sound profile that most people find is a bit more energetic and high-pitched, with a clacky signature compared to the deeper thocky Zealio 4T 62G switches above. The only downside for these switches is that while they generally have very little stem wobble, some people find they can be slightly wobbly in switch sockets, and there's a slight metallic spring ping aspect to the overall sound profile. That said, the upper housing is made of POM plastic, which does tend to get a bit smoother over time, but the prevailing wisdom is that these switches need a bit of lube to come into their own. Durock Sunflower T1 is the POM version of Durock's popular T1 switch, featuring a full POM blend housing and 13.1 mm P3 stem. POM material is able to absorb lubricant which make itself smoother. Added the soft and flexible P3 stem, it will be smoother and smoother after use beyond its T1 tactility. Number 3. Akko V3 Cream Blue Pro. We recommend the Akko V3 Cream Blue Pro as a budget pick. These are medium-weight tactile switches with a very early rise into a satisfying tactile bump. They're more expensive than the previous generation Akko V3 Cream Blue switches, but we think the small jump in price is worth it. Improvements with this version include a new dust-proof stem cover that adds a bit of overall stem stability. These switches are also newly lubed from the factory, making a considerable difference in how smooth these feel right out of the box. Generally speaking, you can always improve on factory lube jobs yourself, but in this case, we'd suggest it isn't necessary, making this switch a great choice for a laid-back build. Just note that these switches are on the louder side and have a slightly higher pitched, tappy sound signature than many tactile options, which typically aim for a deeper, more resonant sound. Akko V3 Generation Pro switches, our creamy switches now feature alloy copper and palladium gold contact, which provide better conductivity, stability, and durability. With dust-proof stem and 5-pin, Akko V3 Generation Pro cream switches are designed to bring a better stability typing experience. Smooth and creamy, Akko V3 Pro 45GF Tactile Creamy Blue switches provide a unique and satisfying typing experience with their 18mm extension spring and POM/PC/PA materials. The creamy and smooth feel of our switches is further enhanced by the use of lubed rail. Number 4. Kailh Speed Copper. For gaming, we recommend Kailh Speed Copper switches for most people. These switches have slightly shortened springs, which provide a very lightweight feel. They have virtually no pre-travel, with a more subtle tactile point to overcome right at the beginning of travel compared to other switches on this list, which have a more pronounced tactile event. Ultimately, these characteristics make them ideal for gaming, but you'll benefit from having a lighter touch to get the most out of them. That said, unlike linear speed switches, which are typically very easy to accidentally actuate, these tactile speed copper switches allow you to comfortably rest your fingertips on the keycaps, ready to strike at a moment's notice without accidentally registering an input when you don't want to. These switches also have a clear upper housing, which won't interfere with your board's RGB lighting. Finally, while these switches are reasonably smooth feeling out of the box, a little lube goes a long way to balance them out. Speed tactile switches with 40G actuation force deliver fast response for gaming and typing tasks. Shorter pre-travel distance ensures quick actuation, providing a competitive advantage in games. Compatible with most PCBs and hot swappable, allowing for easy keyboard modifications without soldering. Number 5. TTC Silent Bluish White. If you love tactile feedback while gaming but feel standard tactile options are too loud, we recommend TTC Silent Bluish White switches. However, keep in mind that no switch is truly silent. These switches aren't as quiet as silent linear options but are still significantly quieter than standard tactile switches. Also note these switches can be more difficult to find from major online retailers, but smaller distributors like Milktooth or Goblin Techies typically have them more reliably in stock. These switches have a powder blue stem and bottom housing and a clear top housing, providing good visibility for RGB lighting. Thanks to their double-stage springs, they offer a surprisingly satisfying tactile, medium-weight typing feel with relatively short pre-travel, a soft bottom, and a snappy rebound. They also have a somewhat shallow total travel, so they're best for a lighter touch to avoid feeling an abrupt bottoming out sensation. Altogether, these switches are your best bet if you're particularly noise-sensitive or live with someone who is. Package included only TTC Bluish White switch. TTC Bluish White 3-pin tactile spring spec, 22mm gold 2-stage spring actuation force, 42 plus or minus 10 GF bottom force, 60 GF pre-travel, 2 plus or minus 0.4 mm total travel, 3.5 plus or minus 0.4 mm operating life, 100 million cycles factory lubed, yes. The silent bluish white parameters are roughly the same as the ordinary ones, the difference is that the new silent silicone pad